Hello, this video is on adding and subtracting fractions. Our learning target is being able to add and subtract like and unlike fractions. Make sure that you are ready to take notes. Some vocabulary that we want to make sure that we understand. Numerator is, as we know, is the number on top of a fraction, representing the part of the fraction. Denominator is the number on the bottom of the fraction, representing the whole. So this, even though it might be in your notes, make sure that you have it written down just to remind yourself, because we want to start being able to use numerator and denominator. Like fractions have the same denominators, and then unlike fractions have different denominators. Least common denominator is the smallest denominator that two or more fractions have. And we also, when we have like fractions, we also say that they have a common denominator, which means that they have the same denominator. When we add and subtract fractions, we need to make sure that we have a common denominator before we add and subtract. So when we're adding like fractions, they already have a common denominator, so it makes it pretty easy. If we look at the visual over here, and we're adding 5/9 plus 2/9, we can see that 5/9 is shaded in the purple, and then plus 2/9 is shaded in the gold. So then if we add it all up together, we have 7 out of the 9 boxes shaded. So if we look here, 5/9 plus 2/9, all we're doing is we're adding our numerators, keep the denominator the same, put it in simplest form, which it's already in simplest form, so then it's 7/9. If we have 9/10 minus 1/10, we can look at our visual over here. We have 9/10 shaded in. We take 1 away, so you can see that 1 is crossed off, which then leaves us with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8/10. Same thing here though. If we already have common denominators, so we subtract our numerators this time. 9 minus 1 is 8. Keep the denominator the same, and then we simplify. I know that 8 and 10 can both be divided by 2. So in simplest form, it would be 4/5. If we have unlike fractions, which we do here, 1/2 plus 1/6, unlike fractions meaning we have different denominators, then we have to find a common denominator. So we're going to rewrite this as 1/2 plus 1/6. You could rewrite this with me as well and do this. And then I have to think of a number that 2 and 6 can both go into. Basically, I'm trying to find the least common denominator. So I know that 2 can go into 6. So I'm just going to change my 1/2 to 6. I know that 2 times 3 equals 6. And whatever I do to my denominator, I have to do to my numerator. So I'm going to rewrite this before I try to do this in my head to 3/6 plus 1/6. So I want to keep myself nice and neat and organized. Now that I have the same denominator, I just add. So 3 plus 1 is 4. Keep the denominator the same. Then remember, we always simplify, so we can divide them both by 2. So we would have 2/3. 11/12 minus 3/8. So again, we're going to rewrite this. If we look over here really quick, if we estimate, so 11/12 is very close to 1, and 3/8 is very close to 1/2, because 4/8 is 1/2, so we know that 3/8 is a little less than that. So if I estimate and I do 1 minus 1/2, my answer should be around 1/2. So we always want to make sure that we understand what's happening and that we know if our answer is going to be reasonable. So I look at 12 and 8, and I think I try to find a number that they can both go into. I know that they both can go into 24. I know that they can also go into 48, which I could use. It's just then I would have to do more simplifying at the end. So let's change them to 24ths. So I know 12 times 2 is 24, and then I do the exact same thing to my numerator. But I know that 8 times 3 is 24, so then I have to do the same thing to my numerator there. So notice that I'm multiplying by different numbers to get to the same number. So then I rewrite it, 22 24ths minus, make sure you're always using the correct operation, minus 9 24ths. I know that 22 minus 9 would be 13. So 13, and then keep my denominator the same, 13 24ths. And then I check, 13 24ths is very close to 1/2 because 12 24ths, 12 is half of 24, 12 24ths is 1/2, so my answer makes sense. Pause the video and try these problems on your own and then come back and check your work. So we already have common denominators, so I just add my numerators. 1 plus 3 is 4. Keep the denominator the same. Simplify to 2/3. And then 3/7 minus 1/7. Denominators are already the same again. So 3 minus 1 is 2. Keep the denominator the same. So we have 2/7. Again, pause the video, do all 3 of these problems on your own, and then come back and check. So for 8/9 minus 2/3, I know that I can just change it to 9. So 3 times 3 is 9. Do the same to my numerator. So I'm going to rewrite it as 8/9 minus 6/9. 8 minus 6 is 2. Keep denominator, so 2/9. Make sure you're keeping track of the operation that you're supposed to be doing. 5/6 minus 3/8. Let's change it to 24ths. So 6 times 4, which means I would do times 4 up here. And then 8 times 3, which means I do times 3 up there. So rewrite it, 20 24ths minus 9 24ths. 20 minus 9 is 11, so we get 11 24ths. And then lastly, 7/8 plus 4/8. 4 can go into 8, so I only have to change my 4 to 8s. So times 2 and then times 2. 7/8 plus 6/8 would be 13/8. That is an improper fraction, so I always need to put it into simplest form, which would be a mixed number. 8 goes into 13 one time. If I pull 8 out of 13, I have 5 left over. Keep the denominator the same. And then lastly, these are just good steps to write down in your notes, or at least highlight and make sure you have, to adding and subtracting fractions. The biggest thing is to rewrite fractions so they have common denominators. So when you're adding and subtracting, they have to have a common denominator. Then we add or subtract the numerators, keep the denominator the same, and then make sure it is in simplest form. That's all I have for you. Make sure you have your notes in class tomorrow. Have a great day.